Yo, parents, orphans, and retrogrades. Tonight, we are dealing with the question, what if one of the loudest Protestant voices in American conservative politics was on the verge of making one of the biggest spiritual decisions of his life when he died? We're getting a big hum in the background. I think maybe, yeah, that's better. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I have a special guest to deal with this question. It is Mr. John Yep of Catholics for Catholics. And it's the first time that you're going to join the show, John. So thank you very much. I wanted to say this. Charlie's death, now nearly a year old, ended every conversation he was having, which is, of course, a tragedy for America and American politics and American Christendom, including a conversation that friends, commentators, others like me that never met him, observers who are, two stones throw away, have since wondered about. Was he moving toward the Catholic Church? There was no public announcement, no formal profession of his faith. He was well known as a evangelical Protestant. No confirmation that he decided to convert, but there were intriguing signs, growing engagement with Catholic thinkers, daily mass with some Catholic massgoers like yourself, increasingly favorable comments about Mary and Catholic theology, and relationships that have fueled speculation that he may have been exploring the faith more deeply than many realized. Tonight, we're separating the documented facts from the rumor, and you're one of the very best people in the position to make the call, one of the refs that could know, because you were there in Phoenix, and I'm pleased to welcome you to the show.
It's great to be here, Tim. Again, long time just fan of what you do, and you're one of the culture warriors out there. And it's great to finally make it to your show. It took a friend's passing to arrive there, but hey, however you arrived to your show, it's a good thing. The question is, I guess you can back it up. Why even discuss this? Okay, because you'll hear from both sides, like, all right, like, just give it up already, give it up, like, just let the guy, rest in peace. Does it really matter if he's Catholic, if he's evangelical, whatever? You hear that a lot, right? And I think there's a couple things I want to say right there off the bat. Number one, as Catholics, right, we believe that no one's saved outside the church, right? And the fact of the matter is, if somebody comes to the church or makes that kind of just move towards Catholicism, we want to talk about that, because our goal should be to convert all souls to Christ, obviously, right? That's found in the Catholic faith. Secondly, it has, and I know you've brought this up a number of times, if you're not so much into the religion aspect of things as you should be, Charlie's move toward Catholicism also coincided with his geopolitical shift away from the Zionist state of Israel, modern day Israel, right? So those two go hand in hand. So a lot of the just the blowback, okay, that you receive, okay, it comes from the fact that people having this. I'm sure we'll get it after this for having this discussion about Charlie's Catholicism again, okay? Like, throughout the whole context since September 10th, since Charlie died, Candace, Barron, others have done tremendous work at just kind of getting to the bottom of really doing a service, by the way, to Turning Point, whether they see it or not, to help them find the killer of their founder. Okay. They've done a service for them, but Turning Point in general has responded very, very little to different things, including Erica, right? But right, among the very few things that they actually respond to, someone will call accusations or questions, or like, hey, were you there that day, or what happened, this, that, the other thing? They're pretty much silent, except in the very few number of things. One of those things is, if you dare to even bring up any kind of mention of Charlie with his Catholic faith. I've experienced it firsthand, right? We did this video early this year, right around the time of our Catholic Prayer for America event, one of our signatory events we do every year, March 19th. Candace spoke, Carrie spoke, Joe Kent spoke. And, we did this video about some of the reasons why Charlie was moving towards Catholicism. We had an immediate response from the head of Turning Point Faith against me, just kind of shooting me down and really not answering the substance of what exactly we said for Charlie's move towards Catholicism. So I just want to preface that, like, this is important. This is not just some random fact, and like whether he was speculating whether he was a Chicago Bears fan or a Green Bay Packers fan. It's so much more transcendental, even on a geopolitical scale.
Can I jump in there? Let me say something that maybe this is some sign of neurosis, family of origin issues. Maybe I'm a weirdo, whatever. Maybe I'm just have a debater's soul. But for all my weaknesses, one thing I think that I don't let people get away with this setting frame. So if I were dealing with one of them and they were saying, why does it matter? It doesn't matter what he was, Protestant, Catholic. Why are you dredging this up? I would say that is such a strange, protesting too much question. With every figure that's passed from a current events, a man of the left or the right in current events, someone who lives and breathes flesh and blood as we live, to death, he is transcended. If he were important enough in significant world historical events to be a man of history. And with every historical figure, well, we're talking about Napoleon, George Washington, other American founders and framers, George Mason, lots of the Confederates in American history who had a dalliance, even my personal favorite, the greatest, General Lee, who had a dalliance with Catholicism. Flirting with was he Catholic has literally never been impugned by the tongue of any religious person. Everyone understands why, if he's a Catholic, we would want to claim him as a Catholic. Solovyov, Dostoevsky's mentor, same thing. So for the first time in world history, we have Protestants trying to litigate whether or not it's wrong or inappropriate to attempt to divine whether or not he had a conversion. And there's lots of indicia he has. You're going to raise a lot of that for us tonight, but I would just say, have you or Carrie or Joe Kent or any of the Catholics out there, I think Baron Coleman's Catholic, ain't he? Have any of you ever just said, what do you mean? Explain yourself. Why would we not deal with this public fact on a Wikipedia page if a character were about to have a major transcendental shift on a status quo issue that's pretty big, like Protestantism to Catholicism? A lot of people have done this. Why for the first time in world history would we not question this category on Wikipedia pages? Thinkers' religion. Why would we not do that? It's a deafening silence by the Catholics. Like, pick any of the Catholics on the TPUSA side. We don't need to piss anyone extra off tonight, but it's down from Erica Kirk to the TPUSA guys who are all prots, super evangelical dispies. But has anyone ever just spit that back at them?
No, they haven't. The most you probably hear is like, just, it doesn't matter as long as we're just all believers in the Bible and Christ. It's all the same. Let's give it a rest, right? But which I think goes to the heart of the whole battle, right? We know as Catholics, we know that, again, Turning Point, other groups out there, America in general, they've tried to, subsist off this idea that Christianity in itself, or just like Protestantism or Bible believing believers, is enough to sustain the republic. As you, the writer of Catholic Republic, show so clearly, that's not enough, right? It's the Catholic faith which alone can give birth to republic, the natural law theory, and it's the only religion that ultimately has the supernatural grace to sustain the republic. So I think someone like Charlie Kirk, who was at the time of his death in charge of the most powerful, most potent political organization on the horizon, and the fact that he was making a shift, not just a shift, by the way, from, and this is where it's key, not just a shift from being a Baptist to being a Roman Catholic. It was deeper. It was because the Turning Point USA is suffocated, okay? And I use the word carefully, suffocated by Zionism, okay? And Zionism, apart from its religious consequences, is absolutely destroying this country today. It is a cancer just hitting at the very unity of America. The world, might I remind you, is on the brink of world war because of the fact that we've been led into invading Iran, okay? At the behest of Israel, and that's per Secretary Marco Rubio, who said it so clearly right off the bat when the war first started. Okay, so Charlie Kirk becoming Catholic is a huge, huge point. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of those facts, just kind of to refresh the memory. Now, you actually started off the show, Tim, by saying, "Hey, John's one of the best people out there to talk about this." I do. I have my knowledge. I have my personal insights. But let me tell you this, because and you need to pray for these people and you need to challenge them, because there are people out there, I'm not going to name names right now, who know a lot more than me about Charlie's Catholic faith. They know the truth, okay? And they've had much more personal experience with him on his faith level, but they are choosing to be quiet. Now, if they know information that I don't know, but it's, again, I would encourage them to speak up, because they have a duty before God, because Charlie's life belongs to, especially his faith. Like he said himself, I want to be known for my faith, the courage of my faith. And there are people that are sitting on that right now, and that is no bueno. So just to recap here, 7 reasons, okay, why he was, again, on his way to Catholicism, okay? Number 1, the fact that he attended daily mass. Yes, that's me. I've seen it with my own eyes. Many of us have seen him. He would go during the week, okay? If you're like, I mean, goodness gracious, if only more Catholics would go to Catholic mass like Charlie Kirk would, in terms of the frequency, right? So he was
How
there.
many times did you see him personally with your own eyes?
I would say between weekend masses and and weekday masses, maybe like 10 or a dozen different times. Now, again,
okay,
we would go like, it's not like, okay, I'm there every single day. He didn't show up. You can't determine the frequency of his going there based off, I only saw him 12 times, because of course I would travel to different parishes, whatever you name it, right? But so, yeah, about a dozen times between the weekend masses, and then weekday masses. In fact, the very last time that I ever saw him was coming out. He left after the liturgy of the word, and I was just in the back in the vestibule of the church, and he came back and he was on his way, and I just gave him a fist bump, kind of like, just like, you're going off to your battlefront station, and I'm sick. I'm me as well. So, that was so. The fact that number one, daily mass. Okay.
Yeah.
Fact number 2, Catholic spiritual director. Okay, this is where I also have very personal knowledge. My family, again, knew him briefly early on in Chicago. I'm from Chicago. He's from Chicago. We're both, we used to say we're both Chicago Bulls fans. He was. We both had a Catholic grandmother that watched EWTN. He started Turning Point USA actually on my birthday, so a lot of kind of cool similarities. The very first Turning Point headquarters is in Lamont suburb where I grew up as well. So a lot of just like really unique, whatever coincidence, facts like that. But so my family kind of briefly interacted with him. He remembered me. I was in the seminary for many years. So by the time I left seminary, I settled in Phoenix, Arizona. And of all places, like, Phoenix is the metropolis. I ended up living what ended up being like 5 minutes away from him and attending the same parish, right? So I reconnect with him December of 2022 at AmFest, okay? And our first conversation, of course, remembers me, hey, what's up? I know your family, blah, blah, blah. And he, we got in the context of talking about just the faith. That was what I just started an organization called Catholics for Catholics, right? So I was telling him, like, look, I'm here to evangelize people through politics and culture, right? And so he's like, yeah, I live by Bernadette. And he had mentioned that he had seen the priest there. So he was kind of aware of that priest, Father Klein. And, he's like, I'd love to meet a priest, right? So it was only natural, since that was my parish and I knew Father Klein, that I said, well, you already know that area, blah, blah, blah. So let me connect you. And he said, I would love that, right? So December, I went back on dates and just looked that all up. And so on December 28th, 2022, out of the timeline, he went and had a meeting with Father Klein for the first time, right? And I showed him, remember, just like, taking pictures. This is where you go. This is how you get to the rectory, blah, blah, blah. And he was actually brought up there. He was questioning if he was going to bring Erica or not, okay? And he ended up bringing, for what it's worth, he actually asked me the day before, are you coming with me to meet Father Klein? I kind of pushed back. I said, no, like, you handle it on your own. So, he brought Erica, and the two of them went there to meet Father Klein. So from then began just, they had a very close relationship with Father Klein, and a lot more can be said there. But that's the last fact.
Would Erica receive the sacraments there? Is this St. Bernadette's?
St. Bernadette, yeah.
Was she a sacramental communicant?
I don't want to really comment on that, like if they're like receiving communion or not. I mean, Erica does go to the daily mass there, and whether or not she receives, it's more that that's between them and God. But
fair enough. It's a public act, though. That's why you're not allowed to receive publicly. I'm just curious. I ain't wrenching your arm, but I'm just curious because the people that go to mass would be able to see. I mean, it's kind of a curiosity. It's become something of an oddity. I might drive to Phoenix, which is close to my neck of the woods as a native Southern Californian, just to see what the hell is she doing. She makes it absolutely labyrinthine to ascertain whether or not she is a practicing Catholic or a practicing Protestant. And this is the name of the game, baby. If she wanted to be a public figure, this is really important. It's also central to the upcoming case. It's really important. So we'll talk about that. But
Tim,
that's
on
why.
that note,
Yeah.
On that note, and I think it's we all know that there's a lot of at the very least a lot of strange things in Erica's past. From her ability to have a video with James Woosley, head of the CIA, right? I mean, who does that? Who has the capacity to just happen upon it? They do a promo video, okay?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And many people are covering that better than I am. But this is the one thing where there's no way I'm sitting back on this, okay? And if I ever see Erica in person, I've seen her at Mass, right? But Erica, you never ever mention the fact of Charlie's proximation to the Catholic or your own. It's always the Lord. It's always the Lord. It's always the Lord. And it's Shabbat Shalom. If we believe what we believe, you can't hide your faith under bushel basket, right? So, and I felt this, okay, and I can't sit back. So that's why I'm speaking up about this. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And not just okay. We're gonna be quiet about this. It's a smashing of anybody who dares to bring up these facts. Which for me, at a certain point, by the way that they have responded, not just Erica, but everybody else at TPUSA, when you try to bring this up, it's a quasi-demonic reaction to speaking up about the faith. And that's not right, okay? Anyway, so...
If you want to know who you can't criticize... Well, no, what is it? If you want to know who rules you, ask who you can't criticize. If you want to know what question might be very sensitive to somebody... ask the question. Similar principle in action. And Protestants are always semi-demonic about Catholicism, but this is next level. Would you agree? Because you're there, boots on the ground. This is next level sensitivity and allergic reaction to talking about Charlie's Catholicity, emergent Catholicity.
It is next level. Again, think about how few times they've responded to the podcast, the citizen journalists who've done tremendous work on this case, okay? And very few times will you get them to speak up. And one of the very few times that they do speak up, including Erica, is about the faith. And they shut that down, okay? They tried to frame, again, the current line is that Charlie went to Bernadette or Catholic Church because he loved the architecture, okay? We know this is how absurd this is, okay? Absolutely absurd. So fact number one was a 10 daily mass. Fact number two is he had a Catholic spiritual director. Okay, he did. It was not Pastor Rob McCoy. It was, he was closer to Father Klein talking every single day than he was any other pastor, right? So that's the second fact. Number three, he had a Catholic funeral. Okay, I have seen the pictures myself of those pictures at the Catholic parish. Okay, that's established fact. Number four. He also had a Catholic burial, okay? He had a Catholic burial. I've seen pictures of those moments at the cemetery as well, okay? So that is fact number four. Fact number five is the fact that he died with the Medal of St. Michael on, okay? Which, it's, I guess you could probably have like non-Catholics who are wearing saintly medals, but if you're wearing a Medal of St. Michael, okay, you're starting to develop that love for the saints or the appreciation, so... And ironically, that St. Michael medal is the key, at first glance, that it can't be a 30-06 bullet shooting at his neck, because the bullet hits him right here, and Charlie's St. Michael necklace blows up this direction.
I know.
Right?
I know. It's weird.
It's
weird.
Almost as if St. Michael was already giving us a sign. Who knows? But, so that's number five. Number six, let's talk about devotion or leading. The famous debate, Michael Knowles, going back to history, Michael Knowles, Charlie Kirk,
February 2025. Yes.
Yeah, roughly 2024. Or is it 25?
25. It's February 25. I was doing my taxes watching this because I'm friends with Knowles too, and I was like, go get him. Go get him. Charlie was coming at him hard. But sorry, go on. Jump on.
He was coming at him hard. And one of the hang-ups that he still had was the devotion to our Blessed Mother, okay? So... he has this, and that was in February, but look at how he progressed. Okay, it was By June, again, Candace was revealed that she has a source that said that Charlie was praying the rosary right near the end of his life. That I don't know, but I do know he had a devotion. He had respected her. The famous video where he said that the Blessed Mother is the antidote to feminism, right? In fact, that was the last message I got back from Charlie on July 26, 2025, was I told Charlie, I said, your video about Our Lady, it was awesome, and we boosted it, we blasted it all over, and we got it over 1 million views. His one-word response, he was very typical for the one-word responses, wonderful, 2 exclamation points. Charlie was happy, okay? I said
that was in April. I mean, maybe not the video response, but the first written indication of the solution to toxic feminism is Our Lady. That was in April.
There you go.
So something decisive had happened, in March or late Feb.
There you go. So, he had this growing appreciation. And even when I visited the Shrine of Our Lady of Champion in Wisconsin, where it's the only proved apparition in the church in America, in the United States.
Yeah.
And I sent him a picture of Our Lady and a quote from scriptures about the Blessed Mother smashing the head of the devil. And he responded with, we need millions of Catholics praying the rosary for Trump, because it was about the election time, right? So it's just like he had that familiar, and I felt it growing over time, and you could see that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's fact number 6, right? The devotion of Our Lady was growing. And then the most important, the smoking gun. And this is why it's so important. Like, you could talk about, we have the dumbest responses sometimes from people that say, well, this is what he said in 2023 about the Catholic faith. All right. Well, guess what? Like our own conscience, it matters. Are you in the state of grace when you die or not? It doesn't matter what you did in the past. Where are you before God before you die? And the last public thing that we have witness on the record, willing to say anything about his faith life, is September 2nd in Visalia, California. No, you covered it, right? Bishop Joseph Brennan, who was like, I know Bishop Brennan, and he had nothing to gain from this, and he mentioned how he was at a pro-life dinner. It was probably one of Charlie's last speaking events, that he ran into Charlie in the bathroom. Okay, Charlie sees the Catholic priest. They talk about the faith. Charlie says, "Hey, I love my Catholic pastor." And then the key line, the clincher, he says, I'm, quote, this close to becoming Catholic.
We have that quote. Can I show that real quick?
Yeah, I have the video. Let's do that.
Proof showing is always better than telling.
This is Bishop Joseph Brennan.
I attended this past week, and I went to that event and literally ran into him in the men's restroom. I did. I had to go to the bathroom after my drive, and there was a surly guy outside of the restroom, probably his bodyguard, but he let me through, and I literally ran into Charlie. He's going out, and, hey, are you a Catholic priest? Because there were a number of clergy, not all Catholic. And I wanted to tell him, I thought of it later, the perfect response would have been, no, it's much worse. I'm a Catholic bishop. But I just said, yes, I am. So how you doing, Padre? Bishop? Well, not bad for my age. That's my stock answer. So gracious. And then I had the immense privilege of sitting at his table, literally the table, just like the ones we're sitting at. There's an 18-year-old young woman there, and her mother and father were at the table, and we're introducing ourselves, and he's asking her some questions, and it turns out she wants to go to college. And Charlie said, why do you want to do that? Well, why are you going to college? It's Socratic teaching. It's so beautiful and gentle and just lovely. He was bringing her to some beautiful conclusions, and just a lovely moment. During his talk in the auditorium, he referred obliquely to the threats that he gets all the time, that he got all the time, for simply being who he is and for simply speaking the truth with love and with gentleness and with an openness. And we've heard all of that in the reports, but he's a true disciple, a real disciple. Now, in the restroom, he said, I'm very close to, and he said this, my Catholic pastor in Scottsdale, because his wife is Catholic, and he does go to church with her, but he's not Catholic, he's evangelical. But at the end of our very brief conversation about that, he said, I'm very close. I'm very close. He said that.
No.
There it is. There it is. That's my bishop, actually, from my hometown, Bakersfield, Bishop Joseph Brennan. So I know the characters, and I can tell you this. In the cast of characters, this is not a hyper-conservative. This is the man who fired me for calling BLM a terrorist organization. So this is not a guns blazing, Brett Favre, California run-and-gun offense gunslinger who's super based. Like, he is not trying to push the envelope. He tries not to push the envelope. He's maybe a little bit right of center, kind of typical USCCB bishop. And he's out there saying this. And John, what do you think his response has been since the pushback arose against him saying this?
I don't even know. I don't know if there has been pushback on bishops. There's something so beautiful about that, because, like you just said, this is not the bishop that you're going to wake up and just find an article in National Catholic Register about or whatever. Like, he's a relatively quiet bishop in a relatively small diocese, okay? And the fact that we have this gem really sitting there, like, the article came out like October 9th last year. His own brother, the bishop's own brother, wrote it. And the article sat there, but the video itself, which actually sat buried on some small Facebook page of the local Catholic Breakfast Club for like the past 9 months, it just resurfaced like 2 weeks ago. And here you have this gem, which I think, again, I see it as God kind of put it right there in front of us, that, look, it's as clear as day, people, okay? This man was moving, okay? And it coincided with this shift towards away from hardcore Zionism, right? It's there. It's there for all of us. I was going back through my messages, Tim, and even earlier, okay, it's just Charlie's shift. It was clear as day. When Candace Owens, remember when she became Catholic in, it was in April or March of 2024. We, Catholics for Catholics, what we did is we had a big celebration for her, okay? We wanted just like to mimic, I guess, the prodigal son, like coming home, like, figuratively. A soul has come back to the church, right? Let's be excited. Let's show our love for this woman who's been a brave warrior, right? We threw a party, I guess. We had a mass for her, and then we had a talk afterwards, blah, blah, blah. I sent Charlie the link for that event, and I told him this message. I said, Charlie, this is the celebration we are throwing for Candace. Just wait until it's your turn. We will turn it 5 notches. I said, is this a publicity stunt? No, it's trying to match the joy in heaven over the return of a sheep. Every day I pray for you, man, in the Adoration Chapel at St. Bernadette. You are more Catholic than the Pope. That was under Francis. And we can't wait for that day. And he responded right away. He said this, just between you and I, I've tried many times to meet up with my priest to discuss Catholicism. Please don't share anything, just an FYI, and thanks for the prayers. I love Catholicism. So you have, back in 2024 now, okay, you have a man who's going out of his way to meet with a local Catholic priest. Why? To discuss Catholicism. It's key, it's significant, it's important. And we're not talking about it enough.
You hadn't told me that part before. You told me all this other stuff before, and I knew about the Bishop Brennan thing, but that's really interesting.
And I'm going more. Let me go. I've had time to go through some of these messages. Like, here it goes. Right here after that. People see my film right here too. You're gonna think I'm making this up. I go to mass weekly. I love it. There you go. I should be posting these.
You should, bro. You should. Yeah. Do it right now. I'll retweet you. This is big. This is so big.
I go to mass weekly. I love it. That's Charlie on. Let's look at the date of that. Again, that was right. It was May 9th, 2024. So my relationship with Charlie was very much, against half the reason we started Catholic for Catholics in the first place. Yes, we're involved in politics, ballot chasing, things like that, whatever you name it. But it's for one reason, as any Catholic layperson should be. It's to convert souls to Jesus Christ in the faith, okay? But I knew that someone like Charlie had to see people like him willing to work and be in the trenches. So when 2024 happened, it's Trump was at that time the best Catholic option out there. And his team gave us 2.1 million names for Catholic local propensity voters, and we were ballot chasing the organized youth volunteer army. And Charlie's team gave me a breakout session at the People's Convention in Detroit, Michigan. Okay, you may remember that it was the largest conservative event of the summer, and they gave us one of the breakout sessions, and it was like an hour long. And I proposed right away to their team, and I already knew this kind of would probably ruffle a lot of feathers among some Turning Point execs because for different reasons. And I said, look, guys, y'all have your Christian mass on that Sunday morning, and Trump was there, and pretty much every conservative speaker. I said, let us have a Catholic mass there. Let us do it. And to his credit, his team, I'm sure Charlie probably knew he was going to get blowback for that. They let us, and I'm going to get the first ever TLN mass, probably the last, at a Turning Point event right there.
Wow.
Billy Priest did the
That's
mass
cool.
right there in Detroit. Okay. And I sent Charlie the pictures. I made it clear, bro. Like, look, we packed the room. Like, Catholics want to fill the church, and we care about our faith, we care about our country, right? So, so again, this is just relationship that I saw develop over time, and I think it's important we speak up now about all this.
I don't know if you know, but the conceptual stalking horse comprised by Charlie's turn from evangelicalism to Catholicism, and its analogate, the turn from Zionism to anti-Zionism, these kinds of circumstantial tidbits of evidence that a lot of people without legal training assume are just not part of upcoming criminal cases like Tyler Robinson's. Cases often turn on stuff like this, particularly once you're in a fact-finding phase and you say, okay, this is one of those whiffs where you're like, Charlie's becoming Catholic and they're super defensive about that fact. They don't want to talk about it. They're shutting it down. They won't say a word about it. Let's dig around. And this is where investigators need to go, okay, does it stand for the proposition of Charlie was turning against Zionism? Well, there's actually hard evidence against that. Does it stand for things like maybe August 13th, Harrison Smith's tweet being realized within 4 weeks to the day later? I'm afraid that if I ever turned on Israel, they will kill me. That's a published tweet. It's still up. So we do kind of have, you can never prove causation, but we have both moving parts in the correlation of Charlie was becoming Catholic, not evangelical, and he was becoming anti-Zionist, not Zionist. This is the kind of stuff that can turn a case. If I don't know if Tyler Robinson's innocent or whatever, I have no clue. But if he is, because we haven't litigated this shit yet, then that's the kind of thing that could set an innocent man free, or in another universe, maybe prove a conspiracy, that he was just a patsy. Whatever ends up being the case, this Catholic question is oddly at the conceptual center, the locus in quo of where the ideas play in the Charlie Kirk political assassination, the biggest one since JFK in American history.
And you're right too. When you feel the pushback, it makes you want to dig more. Like, why? Why the silence? Why the cover-up? Why am I going to people that associated with him much more than I at my parish and know his Catholic life? And when I bring up these facts to them privately, point by point by point, their response is, well, I could show you texts from him that show he just loved the architecture. And I look at them and I'm like, excuse me? Like, you are living on a lie, and you are hiding behind this, and it's not right. So
these are Catholics that have said this to you?
These are Catholics, yes.
Because
maybe one day in time I'll name names, but for now there are people there that know a lot more, and they're being quiet.
Steph just mouthed some of the names. We probably know them, but I'll tell you other Phoenix Catholics, the one who actually put us in connection. You and I have always circled each other, but I wasn't able to make it to your event. You'd have invited me. I didn't get the invitation till later, the one that Carrie and Candace and Joe Enders were at. And so the person who actually finally put us into contact a few weeks ago was Jesse Romero, also a Phoenix area, greater metro area Catholic, one of the best, one of my favorite. And he's just like Charlie approached me and was curious and asked for my book because he wanted a good book on Catholic ecclesiology. If there's a guy I trust, it's Jesse. And Jesse said he called him a week later, called his office a week later, reached the secretary, and the secretary affirmed, yeah, he did read that book. So he was looking for Catholic ecclesiology, and he said it back in February. I don't have to, it's like believe me or believe your own lying eyes and ears. I can believe my own lying eyes and ears here, because in February 2025, when he debated Knowles, he said there are 3 things keeping me from being Catholic. He clearly worked out the Mary occlusion or preclusion by April. And it sounds like he was working out the other 2, which I would characterize as ecclesiological, by reading books of ecclesiology. This sounds like a slam dunk case. As the litigator in me is like, this sounds like a strong case.
Or put it back on them. Prove him the opposite. Prove to me that he wasn't. There's much more evidence on our side, right? And even one of the last, so there was 3, Mary, I think it was transubstantiation, and then the papacy was a big thing for him. And I mean, honest to God, you feel for all Protestants back in from 2013 through 2025, the pontificate of Pope Francis. It was genuinely hard to understand the papacy under his reign, right?
Yeah,
it was a scandal, obviously, but the fact that we had that transition, the interregnum, and then the election of Pope Leo. I think even for Charlie, that probably was a moment for him just to see even the grandeur of Mother Church. Like the last time I was on a show was, this is a cool story. Like, so I'm in Rome, I'm covering it on a different number of channels and stations. And, when the white smoke goes off, I was just headed back to my room. I was like exhausted from just a whole day of just interviews and whatever. And I was just praying to God that the 5 o'clock release of the smoke was not going to be white, because I was like just zonked, jet lag, you name it, right? And it's just like I had just gotten back, and I was doing a face plaster on my bed, and then the white smoke goes up. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, here we go, rolling the gear. So you grab your phone, you grab your battery, and it's just a mass mayhem to the square. Were you there in 2013 with when Francis was elected? I know you're in Rome for at a certain point.
No.
Were you there?
No. I lived there long ago. Actually, it's kind of funny when you consider, because I was doing live shows from right here, and my Rome correspondent was George Farmer, Candace's husband. He did some shows for me, standing there waiting a couple of the days. He didn't actually have the white smoke day, but he did a day or 2 for me when we were waiting during the conclave. So you were like,
so I had white smoke day. I'll have to give it to George for not staying there longer, but. It goes off, you hear the alerts, and then your phone starts blowing up with different media requests, whether it was Newsmax or whether it was different channels, whatever. They all want you on, they all want you live, right? So you race to the square. I mean, that square fills up probably like, probably like in 7-10 minutes max, right? It's all the way out to the Via Conciliazione, right? All the way to the back. And so I'm running there, and I'm like, even if I can like do an interview, or like, there's no way you're going to have a bar. Think like football stadium, it's you get like no reception because of the amount of people that are right there. So I'm walking through across, and I barely had anything. Okay. And then my friend got me up on one of the, if you're looking at St. Peter's, it's right in front of you. So it's, right to the left side. Another news network had prime spot. They probably paid like hundreds of thousands of dollars for that spot. So I went up there, and I had, half a bar of signal, right? And so I'm on there, and I had to be like far enough away from the main TV crew. I wasn't going to annoy them. So I had to stand on the ledge, and such that I wouldn't like fall off, right? And then I just did the Charlie Kirk show, half a bar, and you can see now, and right as the Pope Leo came out, it's when we, we talked about it. So it just, I guess, even for him who was struggling with the papacy at that moment, to be able to just to walk Charlie through the best of my imperfect ability, why Catholics, reverence the papacy, et cetera, right? So, Tim, I'm glad you're covering this. It's an important topic I'll be speaking of.
I ain't gonna let it go. Look, I don't know what happened that day. I'm kind of, I'm close to George, and I befriended Carrie more recently, right around the time that she got canceled for other super fishy, conceptually close reasons to all of this. But I'm not yet convinced what exactly happened that day. But all of this is major, important, telling, circumstantial smoke that's leading me to the conclusion that there's real fire there. Who had means, motive, opportunity? And the conceptual turn away from Zionism tells you who had means, motive, opportunity. We know who had it. And I'm not going to drop the ball on this one.
We can't, people. This is not just solve the murder case of someone who died in 1953, a random case. This is absolutely central to understanding the world situation. Okay, what's going on in the world, and have I lost friends for speaking up about this stuff, and having Candace Owens, Carrie Bergeron, Joe Kent at our prayer events. Yeah, we have. We've received major pressure, lost donors, you name it, whatever. And there's a lot of good people out there too that just truly don't understand it, and they really think that Tyler Robinson. What I think is absolutely absurd. There's no way. I've seen too much evidence that Tyler Robinson did not kill Charlie Kirk with a 30-06. Okay, but fact of the matter is, it's important for people like you. You did a great job with just kind of like doing summaries for this, because there's so many facts out there, and the media's done a bang up job at just putting so much propaganda in front of us. But it is central. It is central to understanding. Joe Kent, right, just said today, he again revealed what was the last thing that Charlie Kirk told him. It was in the West Wing of the White House in June of 2025. And Charlie looks up and tells him in the stairwell and says, Joe, do whatever you can to make sure that we don't go to war with Iran.
I heard that. Yeah. I heard that this morning.
It's central. So it's central to understanding why we are in the state that we're in America today, why the Trump administration has been such a disappointment, to be nice. So it's good. We got to keep praying for the truth.
I should get Joe Kent on this show. That's fascinating stuff. I want another big data drop. But so you're 100% with me on the idea that the conversion to Catholicism is conceptually close to the conversion against Zionism, right? I mean, that's basic. That's 101. Yeah, absolutely.
They go hand in hand, and that's why there's got to be so much pushback, because here you have again, you have a chance. It's not even this like the leadership turning point. It's not just like, okay, their founder was becoming Catholic, and they would just try to say, well, yeah, he's becoming Catholic, but they say it a little bit in a soft way, so not to like offend everybody else in their organization. It's right. Not even. It's a total just rebuttal, a silencing, and ultimately a lie, in saying that his faith was based just on architecture alone, and that's completely false.
Haven't they said that publicly? That's not.
Yeah, it was the Andrew Colvett did the interview with Alex Clark, I believe in November of 2025. They first brought it up. That's when Candace revealed that Andrew was texting with Erica during the actual interview, because it was uncut. And Andrew said that Charlie's love of the Catholic Church was just based on architecture. Okay. And I heard that same talking point repeated to me by someone very close to Charlie with regards to his faith life, that, yeah, Charlie loved the architecture here. That's why he went to Bernadette. So that
screams lie. For someone like you that was there, seeing him at daily mass. I got 8 kids. I don't make it to daily mass. He's doing better than serious Catholics out here. For you to have seen that with your own eyes, and then to hear he liked the architecture. He liked their donuts they had.
We have seen a total revisionist history of the life of Charlie Kirk.
Yes.
You look at the Iran war, the clip that went around a couple days ago. One of their top, I think it was Erica, it's talking about, I wish we could have Charlie around to understand what his position would be about the Iran war. And then the fact that we have so many clips saying otherwise. So if they're going to lie about that, why would they not lie about something so central as his faith life?
Yeah, I know. Why? Yeah, it's not that interesting, right? It's not that telling. It's not one of the major indicia for his geopolitics, as it was transmuting, as it was. There's something there, as far as we can tell, because there's a scrutable, readable, intelligible change that was going on in this man's life of the mind. it was happening in the life of the heart too, which often happens. You convert to Catholicism, you're not converting to a Zionist version of Christianity. Same as you're not if you're converting to Orthodox Christianity or even like Lutheranism or one of the older branches of Protestantism. He was converting away from evangelicalism, and there's a reason that there's so much smoke around that. Now, I have two Orthodox friends, Jay Dyer and Andrew Wilson, and I really like both those guys, and we've become really close behind the scenes. But I think Jay has more of you close to yours or mine on what happened there, and he's particularly handy at assessing, scrutinizing conspiracies. So I do run these things past Jay a lot of times just to see what he thinks, where he's at. Obviously, we disagree on religion ultimately, but he agrees with what we're saying. And of course, Andrew was on Joe Rogan today saying he doesn't find any of this plausible and all, and that's fine. Reasonable minds can differ, but the Catholic stuff combined with the silence from Erica and then some of Erica's behavior, to me, is some of the strongest circumstantial evidence out there. And I would just like to hear from her about why are you riding the fence? Are you a Protestant or a Catholic? That's information that, as a CEO of a company, people want to. As the CEO of a Christian company, folks want to know: are you Protestant or Catholic or Orthodox? As that's a growing thing as well.
Or at least allow for us a presentation of the facts and not to be pushed in the head, right?
Bare minimum. Yeah.
When the head of Turning Point Faith makes an official statement against John Yep and Catholic for Catholics for laying out those 7 reasons why Charlie was shifting towards Catholicism, which they did in February last year, and it was a response which is really kind of just, it never went to the substance of what we said, and you see this and you wonder why are they hiding it, and makes you want to speak up all the more reason.
Sometimes I feel like I think Candace was the first person I heard talking about this on her show. Charlie was becoming Roman Catholic, but I don't know. Has she really leaned on the implications? Do you think? I feel like she hasn't leaned on the implications.
Maybe not so much. She's a new convert, and maybe that hasn't synced with. But others have, and I think it's one of the reasons they're so afraid, right? The two go hand in hand. How you worship is what you believe, what you teach. Again, that's why it's not insignificant. Your religion, your particular denomination will affect you politically, right? And I think that, in a country which has kind of had this idea that you can be whatever religion you want, whatever, the Zionism is actually a great opportunity to showcase once again that we are the one true faith.
Yeah.
Because no other faith has such a clear paradigm for pushing back on this truly natural and spiritual enemy to the United States of America, which is that Zionism. I had one of the best election integrity experts in the country. Was a really good person. I won't say his name, but came to me recently, and he's a Protestant sect, and he came to me and he just said, "Hey, I'm thinking about becoming a Catholic." I said, "Well, no, that's great. Well, we know why. You love our Pope. You love our, what is he? Love the Eucharist, love Our Lady." And his comment was, "Because you guys have that clear teaching about Zionism, and you guys are speaking up, unlike my own church group. Like, well, blessed be God. Whatever gets you in the door to ultimately receive our Lord in the Eucharist, hey, there you go, right?" So
we got 1,000 good reasons. That's one of them. That's one of the relevant ones. Yeah,
a lot of reasons. Maybe,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. Well, look, I know you got to get out of here. Do we have time to take a call? No calls tonight. We'll just, I want to respect John's time. Look, if you want to
call, it's fine. If not, or a question, but otherwise we can wrap it up. But
yeah, I told a couple of our mutual friends if they wanted to kick in the last quarter hour, that would be cool. I don't think we got them. So I would just say this, John, because we've spoken on the phone a couple times now. I nearly saw you in Chicago, actually, when I was out there. But if there's any way I can help Catholics for Catholics, just let me know, because like I told people in the show I did on the timelines of Charlie Kirk's death, I just kind of pulled back into the 50,000-foot view, and people found that really helpful. I'm kind of on the case now here, so anything I can do to help any of you guys, as just have a kind of a legal and philosophical mind on it, I'm happy to do it. I'm very, very peaked, because this is a current issue.
you have, and it's key for evangelization, which is ultimately what we're about here. It's a key. It's a Charlie's death. He died so we might have life, and I see that. And number one, you already have. You produced the book Catholic Republic, right? Which I hear you're producing a documentary soon. It's where you showcase that the real one solution to this country, politically even, is Roman Catholicism. That's awesome. But you and others, people got to lend their skills. Candace, Barron, whatever, can only do so much, and they're all imperfect. Okay, they're all doing their imperfect way. Me too, right? But you have your skill set, your ability to summarize stuff. It reaches a new segment of audience. We have to hit critical mass. If we hit critical mass in this country, we will revolt against the Epstein class. Okay,
right.
Which is another thing Charlie was speaking up about, and which continues to hold us prisoner in this darkness. So, anyway, Tim, thanks for what you're doing, man, and looking forward to just doing more things together.
Thanks a million. Look forward to working with you. And you're right, Catholic Republic, my book, and soon documentary in a few months, which we're still kind of rounding up investors, and we have the team set to go. We're going to start filming that in the early fall. That is a means of backdoor evangelization. Anything it takes to get someone in the door, as long as we're using truth. We've got 1,000 desiderata in Roman Catholicism, 1,000 reasons you should be Catholic. We can hand pick the one that is the most enticing to a given generation. And anti-Zionism and Catholicism is the unique font of the Catholic natural law, natural rights, subsidiarity, virtue ethics, church-state relations, the family economy, science and tech, because we have the only correct, truly Catholic natural law view of what exactly nature calls mankind to. Then that's just one reason among many that everybody should become Catholic. So I like that approach you have, sort of the political through the theological, and the theological through the political. One hand washes the other. John, you're good, dude. Thanks for joining me today. Your group is Catholics for Catholics. Everyone support Catholics for Catholics. And
stay tuned. Say a prayer for our champion crusades. We're taking the mission. Charlie was at the universities, and he converted everyone to the Ratio, conservative principles. But we got to take a step further. So we'll be hitting the ground, our series of Catholic champion crusades at public universities in the fall to convert them to the Roman Catholic faith. So pray for us. Tim, thanks a lot, and looking forward to our next chat.
Will do. Let me know how I can help. God bless you. God bless you, everybody out there. Like this video, subscribe, click the notification bell. We're trying to get to, 70,000 subscribers here. Everybody, God bless you. And remember, we have that live debate. This time, you know me as a debater. I'll be the moderator on my own channel Friday at noon between Pine Sap and Xbox Republican on the SSPX Society. God bless you all. Days of all.